Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. Joining us today at the round table of dim lighting is Rhett Link.
Hey, here we are.
Hey guys, here we are. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And you.
Me is glad to be here with you.
Me is glad to be here with us. We are glad to be here with them.
That could pretty much go on all day, but it won't.
It's just the two of us, Rhett Link-only Ear Biscuit.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about something that's interesting to us and hopefully interesting to you today. And this is what we've been doing on some of these Rhett and Link-only Ear Biscuits lately. We have what we're kind of calling like an extended Good Mythical Morning conversation, the kind of thing that we would condense down into a list of about 10 minutes. Now we're going to dig down, get into more detail, and have an interesting conversation, follow some rabbit trails, learn some new stuff for about an hour.
Yeah.
So strap in.
Somebody actually called us out.
Put your lip balm on.
Using the term rabbit trail. And they said, it's not going on a rabbit trail, it's going down the rabbit hole.
Well, it depends on what part of the country you're from.
Yeah, I think in our part of the country, there's also rabbit trails.
Have you been down a rabbit trail? You'll get lost real quick, son. Rabbit hole, human can't even get in a rabbit hole. You might stick your nose in it. You probably stick your hand in it, might get bit by a rabid rabbit.
A little blonde girl can go down a rabbit hole. That's where that's from.
Right.
It's referring to that.
It's a book, later turned into a movie. I'm familiar with it.
And that's what we're talking about today. Misused colloquialisms.
No, we're not. We're talking about acquired savant syndrome, also known as accidental genius. Now, this is fascinating because both you and I have been hit in the head pretty badly a couple of times in our life, and it has resulted in some great stories, especially what happened with Link. You can go on the internet and look on our...
Just search Link's broken pelvis story.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. The only interesting thing that happened to you is you just began repeating evidently, hold on, I'm just coming to, evidently I hurt my left hip.
Yeah.
That was fascinating, but it was nothing.
I did not get smarter.
Oh, no.
And that's what all of these are.
Yes.
I mean, people get hit in the head and becoming geniuses. Now you said accidental genius, but I've also never met an intentional genius. You either are or you're not.
No, I'm an intentional genius. I used to be real stupid.
Well, you could say that again. Yeah, you're trying really hard to be a genius. I'll give you that. But I mean,
I'm a try-hard genius.
You either are a genius or you aren't. But there's a subset of geniusi that
don't think that's a word.
They got that way by getting hit in the noggin, and that's what we're talking about today. So, I mean, I feel like we might need to put a warning on this. I think we are going to get so excited.
You think we're going to be prescribing getting hit in the head?
We are not prescribing hitting yourself in the head or doing anything to get hit in the head, but you might want to be, because these stories, I'm so excited to talk about them because they're so fascinating. They're so amazing. There's parts of this that I want for myself. I think we should dig into that. But all of this is real. If we were making any of this up, well, we'd be more genius than we are.
I think the warning I'll put up front is, I would say 99.9% of the time when people get in the head in the way that we're going to describe, these people get hit in the head.
You left the word hit out. You said get in the head.
Get hit in the head.
Okay, yeah, okay.
99 point whatever percent of the time, it doesn't end well. You don't get smarter.
No.
So I don't think this is something you can plan. So we're gonna get into that. But first we wanna take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas.
Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com, enter code BISCUITS. I know it's not the easiest word to spell. There's a C in it.
It looks like biscuits, but it's really just biscuits.
I know we don't have to tell you guys how to spell biscuits.
Just look at it, Google it.
I'm sorry. None of us are geniuses here, but we know how to spell biscuits.
We do.
So enter code BISCUITS at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace.com, offer code BISCUITS.
Squarespace, build it beautiful.
All right, let's get into this biscuit.
Okay, first up is Ben McMahon from Melbourne, Australia. Early 2012, he's 20 years old, and he's a passenger in a very bad car accident. It puts him in a coma for a week. He almost dies.
Okay.
But after 1 week in a coma, he finally woke up, and all he could speak was Mandarin. Okay?
Well,
he's an Australian guy.
Who didn't speak Mandarin?
Okay, let me give you a little bit more information about this because it is completely fascinating, but it's
Did
not.
Did he speak Australian before?
But it's not like there was
English?
a Mandarin lesson plan in the DVD player of the car that suddenly got like shoved into his mouth and somehow his brain absorbed it.
Yeah,
because that would have been really cool.
That's not what I was thinking.
Okay. Ben was an English speaker. He couldn't speak Mandarin before his accident, but he did have a point of reference. In high school, only years prior, just a few years prior to the accident, he studied French and Mandarin, and he also traveled and spent some time in Beijing. But he could never speak Mandarin fluently until he woke up from his coma. So it's one of those things where he had learned quite a bit about it, but had never put it into practice to actually be able to speak it. So it's kind of like I took 3 years of French class.
As did I.
I can say, je suis René. And I rolled my R, which is not even appropriate for French. I have no idea how to speak French.
Yeah.
I almost said speak France to give you just a point of reference.
Right.
But I was in class for 3 years, supposedly exposed to things. And maybe there's a part of my brain that has it because this guy's brain had it. Right. So he wakes up.
Wow, so it's like him getting hit in the head after the coma. It's like it unlocked that place.
Right.
Where all this information was.
And here's how it happens. He wakes up from his coma after being in a coma for a week, almost dying. There's an Asian nurse. I don't know if that's a key to this process working, but there's an Asian nurse standing by his side. He's in Australia, but he sees an Asian nurse and he tells her in Mandarin, "Excuse me, nurse, I feel really sore here." He points. I don't know where he pointed. I don't have a video of it.
That's not pertinent.
He then asked for a pen and paper and wrote in Chinese,
"Oh, wow.
I love my mom. I love my dad. I will recover." Here's what Ben said about this.
Well, he's got good priorities.
He said,
loving those parents.
I wasn't consciously thinking I was speaking Mandarin. It was
just talking.
Just what came out and what was most natural to me.
Wow.
And then it takes him 2 or 3 days to start speaking English again. And now he speaks both languages fluently.
But his go-to language on the other side of the coma was Mandarin.
Yeah, exclusively.
In a way that it had never been. It wasn't like his brain made a choice. It was that it opened up something that had never been opened. Like a Mandarin valve. Do we all, as humans, have a Mandarin valve that just needs to be opened?
I highly doubt that.
But
I don't have a Mandarin
But is it a valve? Is it a valve that French would come out if it were open for us after 3 years?
It's probably not a valve. It's probably a part of the brain.
But there's so little we know about the brain that these anomalies
are
a window into that.
Well, okay.
And plumbing analogies, I'm certain go a long way in neuroscience.
Instead of you conjecturing and saying that there was potentially a valve that was unlocked, I'm going to tell you what Dr. Pankaj Saul, a Queensland Brain Institute neuroscientist, says about this. He said,
"Can you tell me in Mandarin?"
No. He said the brain has different circuits that assist in language, speaking, breathing, and thinking. And he claims it is possible that the parts of Ben's brain that could recall English got damaged during the crash, while those parts that retain Mandarin got activated when he woke up from the coma. Oh. So we're not exactly sure what happened during the coma, but it's like his brain compensated and went for the other part, the other language.
It rewired itself.
And it wasn't temporary, because listen to this. After this, he enrolled in a Mandarin class. I don't know why, I guess to dominate. But he entered an international Chinese language competition. He started
which exists
Mandarin walking tours and even hosted a Chinese TV show. He is now known as the best Mandarin speaking Westerner in China. And some Chinese people say he speaks better Mandarin than them.
Dude, totally capitalized
because of this freaking car accident.
On his hit in the head. He became a celebrity.
He became a celebrity.
Just by being able to, that white dude can speak some Mandarin.
Man, he's better than us.
He's got to be like a TV game show host.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great. I mean, if I'm gonna turn a corner after something bad happens to me, it doesn't get any better than being a TV host.
Oh no, definitely.
Like a game show host.
That is the peak.
That is where you got to go. It's like you have a superhuman ability. I'm not going to fight crime. I'm not gonna like.
Let me host a show.
I'm not gonna fight like technical writing Mandarin crime. No, I'm gonna be a game show celebrity.
Well, I didn't say game show. That's what you heard. Did I say game show? I thought I said Chinese TV show.
Oh, I just well.
But I like to think that it was a game show.
I assumed that it was. I don't know
you're
why.
probably thinking like Japanese game show.
I think you said game show in Mandarin in there, and you didn't know what you were
subliminally,
saying.
Yeah, really quietly.
When you spoke Mandarin, you don't know what you're saying. I think that's what it was.
Well, here's a question for us, though.
But I also noticed that the scientific explanation used electrical analogies because the brain is electrical impulses. But I'm still going to lobby for
the valve
plumbing analogy.
Okay,
so
right.
I'm just going to keep going back to that, even though I know it's an electrical world in there.
Maybe his trap was clogged.
His English trap was clogged.
And the Mandarin pipe.
They went in there to let another
opened up.
Yeah, the valve.
Yeah, we should start our own university.
What's your question?
Here's a question for us. It is, would you willingly be in a car accident that would be this traumatic? But here's the thing, you know that you will recover fully, okay? But you will be in a coma for a week. I know this is a totally hypothetical, impossible situation, but let's just say I was a magic person and I was the kind of person who could say, you can be in a car wreck right now, you're almost gonna die.
You mean a magician?
Yeah, I'm gonna be, no, a magic person is a totally different category. Magicians do fake stuff, but a magic person does real magic.
Oh, wow.
Okay? It's like a genie, but it's different, okay?
Okay.
So you got to go through this process, but when you come out, you can speak any other language fluently, but the price you pay is the accident. Would you sign up for that? You have to go through the pain of recovery, but you will recover.
I mean, there's a lot of emotional baggage that comes along with being in an accident that I can't quantify having not done it, but I know there's like, I mean, that could stick. I can't quantify that, but let's just say that emotionally and mentally, like there's no repercussions of the accident.
Right.
And no one else is hurt, of course.
Yeah. It's like Rosetta Stone, but it's just a wreck.
Yeah, would that cost more than the DVDs or less?
Yeah, I think because you got to have a stunt coordinator.
I guess
a doctor.
First, I have to ask I have to answer what the language would be.
You pick the language. It's like Rosetta Stone.
I have to pick.
You go on the website and you pick the language, and then a week later we pick you up and have a rec with you.
I have to answer
because I've already opened up this business. I just was hoping you would be on board.
I think it would have to be Spanish, and I think I would have to know the answer to that before I answered the larger question of if I'd go through it. Well, I don't know. I got to think about game shows now. Like, what land would I like to host a game show in? It's really what you're asking,
That's it,
right?
That's pertinent.
So, I mean, I would love to host...
Icelandic? No, that's not useful.
There's not a lot of... I don't think there's not enough viewers.
Like, I definitely would do Spanish, and I'd host a Spanish freaking game show. I would also just speak Spanish in LA, which it comes in very handy here.
That's why I first said Spanish, but now that I'm thinking game show, I'm thinking Japanese. They have the best freaking game shows ever.
I don't know if they'll let you over there.
And I am going to be that American dude who speaks Japanese better than anybody and host all those Japanese game shows. That's me, man.
Well, you better...
Absolutely. This is now an easy answer.
You got to get started now, though, because when my program hits the internet, everybody's going to be doing it.
Rhett's Rosetta Rec.
Rosetta Rec, yeah.
CD-ROM series.
Yeah, so that's my idea.
I'm so excited about being a Japanese game show host.
Okay, well, it's $500,000.
Well, I mean, that's like a weekly salary for game show hosts over there, right?
Okay.
They're the highest paid people
probably
outside of Japanese government.
Okay, you got something better than that?
No, but I do have Tommy McHugh.
Okay, he sounds interesting.
Bar brawler turned art savant. All right, so Tommy McHugh lived in Liverpool and spent most of his life causing trouble. This dude always getting into brawls at pubs. You know how Liverpoolians, like they just brawl in pubs, man.
Hooligans.
And he was arrested for drugs when he was like in his 20s. Picture this dude's like, he's tatted up, burly, scruffy, Liverpoolian.
Okay.
Man's man. In and out of prison. I mean, prison tattoo kind of a dude.
All right.
Not the kind of guy you see drawing pictures or writing poetry, I'll tell you that. Okay, one day, back in 2001, Tommy was sitting on the toilet.
Oh, that's a good place to sit.
He was not in jail at the time.
Yeah, because that's a bad place to sit. You want to get that over with quickly.
But he had this real bad headache. And now, I will say, I've had a few headaches.
Yeah.
And I've been so desperate to get rid of them that I've actually thought, I wonder if I just use the restroom, if that will help. Like, I don't get migraines. You're looking at me like I'm an idiot.
It's not connected.
There's
not a valve between the brain and the rectum.
I've had headaches so bad that I'm willing to try almost anything to get rid of them. And that's one of the things I've tried.
Okay.
A bowel movement. And I know that's that's a rabbit trail.
Maybe a BM will help you feel better. My mom used to say that.
So, and it doesn't really help. So I'm just that's my friendly piece of advice. But Tommy had a really bad headache. He's on the toilet. Turns out it was a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, that's bad.
Dude's brain started to bleed, not from one, but from both sides due to rupturing aneurysms. And he was immediately rushed to surgery. I don't even know if they pulled his pants back up before they did it. So
I hope so.
I hope, dude, you can't strain that hard. I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, you think this is a hemorrhoid?
I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're straining so hard that you have a double hemorrhage,
it is unlikely to have
be careful.
Aneurysms on both sides at the same time.
He made it out of surgery alive, but when he got home, he started doing some very bizarre things. For the first 3 months after his surgery, he spoke only in weird rhymes.
Oh.
He became like a Dr. Seuss book.
Like, this is interesting.
Like Wordsmith from that obscure Junkyard Cats cartoon that I used to watch as a kid. There was a cat, one of the cats was called Wordsmith, and everything he said rhymed because he was the guy that did everything on time. I just tried to make a rhyme. I can't do it.
Have you had an aneurysm?
No.
You're just demonstrating.
So 3 months just talking in poetic rhyming. That's pretty cool.
Well, I got to take issue with that because I think it would be pretty frustrating for me if I was his friend. Because I remember when you came out of when you had your concussion and you were saying, evidently I hurt my left hip over and over again. I was, as I tell in the story on the internet, 100% sure that you were joking. And I was like, how long is he going to let this? Because we were into like joking with people and pranking people in college. So I was like, how long is this going to take? If you were in an accident and you came out only speaking in rhymes, I would be like, Link, you got to end this joke. This is not funny anymore.
A few hours later, okay, that's enough. A few days later, okay, that's enough. 3 months later, okay.
I wouldn't be his friend anymore.
Dude, your brain is different now. Now, he was a construction worker. Never in his 50 years of getting drunk and fighting people in pubs did he express any level of creativity, much less speak in rhyme.
He had never rhymed anything.
Well, he started writing down poetry. One of which I have here for our enjoyment. The empty chair fills me with despair. No one is sitting there.
Oh, 3 rhymes in that.
The empty room fills me with gloom, till black rose blood bloom. The empty bed, my love is dead, where loving words were once said. The empty clothes do make me cry, costumes of a time gone by. My empty heart cannot restart. Love has gone away. I am split in two. These words are true as I empty myself of you. I mean, that doesn't sound like some dude who's punching in the face in a pub brawl. But if he did, that would be like an epic Tarantino character.
Well, it's
like speaking in rhyme and just like ripping your teeth out with your your bare knuckles.
It's fascinating that he would have almost a personality change. I got to say,
personality change.
I'm not terribly impressed by the poetry. I'm impressed by
Let me give you more.
The shift.
He started seeing all kinds of images and words in his mind. He decided to start sketching them out.
Okay.
One day his wife comes home to find him drawing alien faces, like with their mouths agape. Like,
grudge situation.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like really surprised aliens, like turning the tables. Like, we're supposed to be surprised by aliens. I don't know. He had this like artistic explanation for everything. The dude became the opposite of somebody he would ever be. He was obsessed with writing, painting, and sculpting. Anything artist he became. He used his own walls as canvases, covered his entire home in paintings.
And he was a construction worker.
Different guy now. He started sending letters out to doctors asking them to take a look at him. And of course, the letters were written as poems in rhyme.
Oh, how do you respond to that?
Well, a team of researchers put him through every cognitive test imaginable and concluded that, yes, his artistic output was due to his brain's sudden decision to start bleeding, which caused some damage to his frontal lobe. The exact cause is unknown. Doctors have named it sudden artistic output. I mean, I think that's what doctors live for. It's like, well, I'm able to name this. It seems like they could have come up with a better name, like, I don't know, like Tommy's really into art now syndrome.
Well, that would just be Tommy, though.
That's true.
So, but I don't understand what happened.
Damage to the frontal lobe. I mean, they don't know. He had some pins put in to stop the bleeding, so they couldn't do an MRI. I don't know. It's just some doctors guessing.
So it's one of the.
It's the brain.
There's just
who knows.
The weird thing is that something gets damaged, which causes another part of the brain to become emphasized,
expressed. A valve.
The
artist valve was
in
closed
an interesting way, because you can't. This isn't like blowing on a Nintendo cartridge, right? When you think about that, you're like, how does that work? How does blowing on a Nintendo cartridge get Legend of Zelda to boot up in the right way?
Well, that makes total sense. The dust that was on the part that was keeping it from booting up was
okay. That does make more sense, but it's almost like creating something out of nothing. If you're not artistic before, something gets shut off. Is it just the shutting off of something that turns something else on? Because you can't make a part of the brain work better by hitting it hard, right? Or
shaking something loose.
Shaking something right.
Shaking something
into place.
Well, no, we're no neuroscientists, but it just tells me that like there's all these building blocks there, like everything's there. It's just a question of what's expressed. It's so
meaning that it was in his brain already.
To be an artist. There was an artist in there.
Right, but it had been subdued.
And there was a brawler in there.
It had been subdued.
Or just both weren't expressed. Like only one was expressed and then it was depressed and then another was expressed. I'm using like landscaping terms now. I'm thinking like sprinklers.
We can only come up with analogies because we don't understand it.
Right, we don't understand it. I mean, when he explains it, he says, my mind is like a volcano exploding with bubbles, and each bubble contains 1,000,000 other bubbles, and then another 1,000,000 bubbles of unstoppable creative ideas.
He also went on to write The Animaniacs.
He actually became a much nicer person, and he doesn't drink and bar fight. He wishes he'd always been that way. If you could have one part of your brain unlocked, assuming that everything that you know about everybody is in all of our brains, and you could unlock one part.
And I had to have a horrible constipation session in order to make it happen?
Yes. But what part of the brain would it be? Like, I think we kind of see ourselves as like kind of well-rounded individuals, but if there's a limitation, we're not as funny, or we're too analytical, or it's.
Yeah, I've always said I'm good at a lot of things.
Because this power will happen.
I'm not
you'll
great.
be able to make an appointment in the future and unlock certain things,
right?
But you're not going to know what's going to get locked up in order to allow that sprinkler to open. When you water the lawn in the front yard,
one of these days,
backyard's going to dry up.
Oh no, this is all leading to something. Inevitably, there will be a time in which you will be able to undergo surgery. They'll figure this out, and you'll be able to.
What are you going to choose?
Engineer
is my question.
Greatness. Because what I was going to say is, I've always thought, I'm not afraid to say I feel like I'm good at a lot of things. I don't think I'm great at anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can hold my own with music enough to write something that's catchy.
Right.
But it is no musical genius, that's for sure. I feel like at this stage in my life, it would either be like the ability to write something really incredible, like story-wise, or something musical related. I'd have to pick one of those.
The interesting thing is, okay, what would you be willing to give up that you're as decent as music at now in order to like express the music sprinkler entirely? What in the backyard is gonna go dry when the musical front yard flourishes?
Niceness.
Oh gosh.
I want to become a total jerk musician. That's really, can I dial that up?
That is sad.
No, I mean, can you sacrifice athletic ability?
Sure, yes.
I would sacrifice that because I
Okay.
don't use that very often.
Okay.
I use it a lot in my younger days, but I would become, horrible at anything physical to be a good musician, to be a great musician. What about you?
Oh, what about me? I've always said like the variety is the spice of life. I'm decent enough at enough things that I just like to do a little thing and be good at it and then move on to some decent at it and enjoy it and move on. Like, I'm just trying to think what I could do if that's sit down at the piano and like do something amazing. It's hard for me to quantify how much joy I would actually get from it. Having never, because I get joy from the little things and then moving on, So it's almost like it's a different mentality. I don't think I would do it.
Taking something to a new level, though.
But it's giving something else up.
Okay, well,
it's giving a mediocrity of variety up.
Well, I've got a guy,
and so that's what I'm not willing to do.
I got a guy who gave up nothing.
Oh,
and gained musical genius. His name is Tony Cicoria in Albany, New York. 1994. He's a 42-year-old orthopedic surgeon. He goes to a payphone to call his mom. It is 1994. They still had payphones that people actually used. He hangs up. He steps 1 foot away from the payphone, and he is struck by lightning. Again, not constipation, but pretty traumatic. Struck by lightning.
Yeah.
He says he then sees his own body on the ground surrounded by bluish-white light. So sort of an out-of-body experience here.
Surrounded by bluish-white light?
Yeah. Cicoria's heart...
Did he become the payphone?
I don't believe so.
What's the payphone got to do with it?
That's just where he was.
Oh, so it has nothing to do with it.
Cicoria's heart had apparently stopped, but he was resuscitated by a woman who happened to be a nurse that was waiting to use the payphone. Again, 1994. Not only are people using the payphone, there's a line. There's a line for the payphone.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? I can't even locate a payphone. I couldn't find a payphone if you paid me to find a payphone. You could pay me in a payphone and I couldn't find a payphone.
Me neither.
But, okay, for the next couple of weeks after the strike, Tony's feeling sluggish.
Well, first, a nurse is also a good person to be there when you're struck by lightning.
Yeah. It helps.
And it's nice to have a payphone because you call 911.
Yeah, it all works out. He's a few weeks after the strike. He's feeling sluggish. He's having trouble remembering things.
Is he still watching himself from above? Or
no, that was
he's back
temporary.
in?
That was
Okay.
temporary. And just a little sidebar on the whole out-of-body experience thing, just for those of you interested in this. It has been, this phenomenon has been documented in lots of different people, and there's actually some really interesting explanations.
The common denominator? A payphone.
That people that experience seeing themselves when they have a near-death experience, not necessarily saying that you're actually leaving your body, but there's interesting neurological things that happen during that time that kind of help to explain this whole out-of-body thing. But regardless of what's actually happening. Anyway, but these symptoms of not being able to remember things and feeling kind of sluggish, they go away, and then things get weird. Out of the blue, Tony, who's never been musical, gets a sudden urge to listen to piano music. Okay, he's just kind of a technical guy, a surgeon. Now, he had played piano for 1 year. Just like forced to take piano lessons at age 7 by his parents. He did not like it though. Mm-hmm. But he had never done anything else with music, okay? But he doesn't just start wanting to listen to piano music. He finds that he is hearing piano music in his head.
In his brain.
And he's hearing it crystal clear, and it's new, original music that he just hears playing in his head.
Really?
And then he figures out
he's a composer.
That he can just sit down, having no idea how to play the piano and not knowing how to read or write music, but he can sit down and play what he hears in his head.
Well, it's not that he doesn't have any idea. He's reaccessing and opening the valve from a 7-year-old, but then applying some other part of the brain to it to just speak the language of music using his fingers. It's unbelievable.
And he goes on to become, what this guy does now is he writes music. He's a musician. Is
he like touring with Josh Groban or something? I mean, is this guy?
Here he is playing an appropriately named Lightning Sonata. This is in Vienna, and you'll notice right before he plays this, I'm just going to play you some of the music, but right before he plays this, he says, "I received this one from the other side, so I can't claim that I wrote it." So from his perspective, he has access to some musical dimension that he's now accessing, and then he's just writing it and playing it.
So if somebody paid him, would he keep the money or would he send it to the other side?
I don't know. I don't know how you send money to the other side. I think you go back to the payphone.
Right. Okay, I get it. He's good at the piano. I get it. You could have played anything on the piano. Oh yeah, okay. You can play the piano good. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the thing I love about this story. Now I know what to tell my kids when they don't want to do their piano practice. Lily and Lincoln are both doing it because as a kid, now I wish as a kid that I would have learned to play piano.
Oh yeah.
Like I do. That's what came to my mind earlier. Because that's something I wanted to give my kids. And the piano can translate. It's a great way to get into music.
Yeah.
It translates.
Yeah.
And I was over Lincoln's shoulder trying to get him to practice the other night and getting really frustrated because I'm so impatient and such a horrible teacher. Well, I wasn't teaching him. I was just trying to get him to do what the teacher was telling him as his homework. And now I have a story. Could be like, Lincoln, you're going to thank me one day when you get struck by lightning at a payphone when you're calling your mama, and all this is going to come back to you, and you're going to be even better at it than you are now. It's like a savings bond of a concerto. You put in a little 10-year-old version of the piano now in your brain, and then
it'll grow up.
10, 12 years from now, when you get struck by lightning, it will have matured.
Yeah. Well,
without you doing anything in your sleep.
And not just that. We have to arrange that. This is really supports my long-held theory that there's music in lightning bolts. And
that's what it was.
And all you got to do is find that high spot during a thunderstorm. Everybody wants to get down in the ditch. Everybody wants to be inside. Mm-hmm. Get under the tallest tree. Go there. If you want to become a master pianist.
Right.
I hope.
For the record.
I hope that no one will actually do that. I hope that people know that. Do you think people know I'm being sarcastic?
If they do, I hope they don't write a letter or tell anyone that's why, and then they die. So they can't tell anyone that you did it because
get struck by lightning. You probably won't become a master pianist.
To me, it's if there was no point of reference for the piano, that would just be, or Mandarin. Like those, it would be mind-blowing, but I just wouldn't believe it.
It's it's still incredibly cool.
It's almost on a brain mechanical level. This is more fascinating because you know just enough to know
it's not magic.
This isn't magic.
It's not magic.
That it's in there,
right?
And it incubates, but when it manifests itself, it's to a savant level.
Well, and this guy's been studied. Tony's been studied by Columbia University neurologist Oliver Sacks, whose conclusion is, I cannot provide an exact medical explanation for Cicoria's condition. Yeah, I mean,
of course he can.
Isn't that just fascinating that there's just so much that we don't know. There's so much that we don't know, but I definitely feel like these cases in which, again, we were talking to Kevin, who helped research for this episode, who said that there's only about 25 cases of this thing happening in the world. So we're just experiencing the very beginning of this thing, but there's absolutely no doubt that 100, 200 years from now, whether it's through nanotechnology or just some injection, that you'll be able to rewire your brain to access some new level of potential. That whole Lucy movie and that whole, like, what's the one with Bradley Cooper, Limitless, all that's
right.
Totally legit, man. That's maybe not exactly like it happened, but it's gonna happen.
And you know what? Remind me, I want to come back to this at the end, but just the thought about our brains and how we view technology outside of our brains. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Right now, we got to take a quick break from these brain stories and tell you about something else that requires a lot of brain power. Building a website. Rhett, name a profession.
Mime.
Mime needs websites, man.
Really?
Mimes needs websites.
Do you know of Mime's websites?
Yeah, I think mimes. No, I don't personally frequent mime websites, but I'm just trying to make the point that everybody needs a website.
Everybody could use one.
And an occupation that doesn't speak and just uses
do
what mimes do. They certainly need a website. They need any help they can get to communicate.
They can put some video on there of how, this is me coming out of the box. This is me stuck in the box. This is me going down the stairs. This
Captions.
is me going up the stairs.
Right. Portfolio website. Point made. Everyone needs a website.
Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and beautiful websites that look professionally designed regardless of your skill level. No coding required. And not only does Squarespace provide you with an intuitive and easy way to use tools to create your website, but your site will be secure and stable.
Squarespace is easy and simple. They give you 24/7 online support and a beautiful website for only $8 a month. You can even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for the year. So, begin a trial with no credit card required and start building your website today, y'all. When you decide to sign up, make sure to use offer code BISCUITS to get 10% off your first purchase and show your support of the show. Offer code BISCUITS, 10% off Squarespace.
And thanks to Squarespace for their support of Ear Biscuits. Squarespace, build it beautiful. I also want to thank our other sponsor, Audible.com. I'm totally serious here. Audible.com has revolutionized the way that I consume books because I'm the kind of person.
Well, yeah, you used to do it with your eyes, now you do it with your ears.
No, because here's the deal. I am the kind of person who loves the idea of reading books, but never gets around to actually reading them nearly as much as I like the idea of it. But now that I've started listening to books, I'm gonna say that I'm reading the books. I am consuming the books. I'm learning the things that are in the books. And I do a lot of this while I'm driving, and it's much better than that thing I see people doing. You know, the people who are like reading a novel and they're holding it up in front of their freaking steering wheel? Have you seen this?
Yeah, yes.
People are still doing that, and they could just be listening to the book.
It's crazy.
I've gone through more books in the past 2 months since I've been using Audible than I have in the previous, 2 years, easily.
It's almost like getting hit in the head.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Waking up and having you listen to a book. Over 180,000 titles, so you'll find something that'll keep your attention. The Audible app is free and works on iPhones, iPad, Android, and Windows Phone. You can also download and listen on your Kindle Fire and over 500 MP3 players. 500 MP3 players? Are there 500 different types of MP3 players out there?
Zune is the only one I can come up with.
Unlike streaming or rental service with Audible, you own the books. You can access your books anytime, anywhere, right from your smartphone. Audible.com also has the Great Listen Guarantee. If you decide you don't like the book you chose, hey, no worries. You can exchange any book you aren't happy with for any other title anytime. No questions asked.
Also, as a special for Ear Biscuits listeners, Audible.com is offering a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Go to audible.com/Rhett and Link today to start your free trial. Again, show your support for Ear Biscuits and get a free audiobook and 30-day trial at audible.com/Rhett and Link. That is A-N-D spelled out, not the ampersand. That won't work.
All right, back into this biscuit. Jason Padgett is the name of a guy that we went to high school with.
I'm about to say that sounds like somebody we went to high school with.
But as it turns out, there's another Jason Padgett in Tacoma, Washington that we did not go to high school with.
Yes, big guy, real big.
No, like muscular.
Oh, I was thinking Jason Batson.
No, Jason Batson was a different guy. Different name. Jason Padgett. We barely knew him, but I hadn't thought of his name until I'm about to tell you about this guy who's not him.
Yeah, so we shouldn't even be talking about the other one.
It's just a different guy.
Yeah.
But you know how I'm sorry guys, when a name comes up, man, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Let me see if I can figure out who it is. He's a big guy. You get hung up.
Yeah, right.
My brain won't let me let go of this.
But now we're going to shut down the old Jason Padgett part of the brain and open up the new Jason Padgett part of the brain.
Yes, we're going to express
this. It's a savant.
All right. This dude's a furniture salesman in Tacoma, Washington. In 2002, two men savagely attack him outside of a karaoke bar before robbing him. Who's gonna?
That's rough.
Man,
Boy.
it's cold. Someone's been at a karaoke bar.
Somebody's singing "Islands in the Stream" in the background, and you're getting your head kicked in. Oh, that's horrible.
Dude, they hit him over the head from behind and left him with a severe concussion and post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean,
it's bad.
And he had been doing karaoke all night. That's
hopefully at least
bad to worse.
Well, no, sometimes you come off a good karaoke run. I mean, sometimes I've really nailed it a few times.
Right. The incident also turned Jason Padgett, the one that we didn't go to high school with, into a mathematical genius who now sees the world through fractals.
What?
This guy's like the poster child for turning lemons into lemonade. Yeah, I used to just be a guy who sold furniture, sang karaoke, and got the crap beat out of me behind the karaoke bar, and now I'm a mathematical genius who sees the world as fractals.
I mean, what? I know what a fractal looks like, but it makes no sense to me. How do you see the world in fractals?
Well, I'll tell you how he explains it. First of all, he said back in school he always hated math. But the injury unlocked the part of his brain that makes everything in his world appear to have a mathematical structure. It's like he has a superpower he sees in math. It's like a filter over his eyes. He said, I see shapes and angles everywhere in real life, from the geometry of a rainbow to fractals in water spiraling down a drain. It's just really beautiful.
Well, I hope it's beautiful.
I want this guy to sell me furniture.
Sounds like it would drive me crazy.
No, I mean, he's in awe of it.
This is a fractal couch. I know you can't tell.
But it's amazing.
But it's just fractals, man. This sectional sofa is just full of fractals.
He just went back to his job, and he's just like staring at furniture. Yeah. And like as if it's the most beautiful thing. You know, I've never been on acid, don't plan on it, but it seems like that's what this guy would look like, staring at a couch like it's amazing.
Well, hopefully he can control it a little bit better than that.
Barrett Brogard, a philosophy professor at the University of Miami, scanned Padgett's brain. So you got a philosophy guy scanning his brain. It showed significant activity in the left hemisphere, where mathematical skills are known to reside. So that makes sense. His brain lit up mostly in the left parietal cortex. I think I'm saying that right. The area behind the crown of the head that is known to integrate information from different senses. So, I mean, we have a little bit more information about this guy that, okay, there's this information integration center and mathematical skills center, and it's lighting up, you know, that's what you would expect, to like this super electric degree that he can he's tapped into this dormant area again where this resides in everyone. Like if I could find this place in your brain and stimulate it correctly.
Hey man, stimulate this correctly.
I can't speak while doing it, but
you're speaking in fractals now.
You would see couches.
You turn correctly into correctly.
Like an amazing geometry teacher. He started sketching the stuff that he was seeing. He would sketch like circles made of overlapping triangles, and he began to understand the concept of pi in like a mind-blowing way. He didn't have any formal understanding to interpret the drawings that he himself was making. He could just do it. Making the drawings out of instinct. A physicist happened to walk by him in a mall. Jason was just sitting in a mall sketching things that he was seeing.
Furniture.
A physicist walks by.
Here's a chair. Here's a love seat.
And is like, oh, he strikes up a conversation and says, dude, you need to get mathematical training because the stuff you're drawing is amazing. And when you look at it, it's like looking at line drawings that you could see in a kaleidoscope, like perfectly geometric, drafting table level precision drawing.
Or like something you see in a 3D program.
Yeah, but
angular.
This guy's just drawing them out of instinct, and now he's a sophomore in school as an aspiring. I can't speak anymore.
Yeah, notice.
It's like my brain is so overwhelmed with this knowledge that
shutting it down.
Maybe my language center is shutting down, and I'm making room for something else that has nothing to do with this podcast.
I am so anxious as to what it might be.
He's an aspiring number theorist, and he's like being trained to do it. And he loves it because it's now resonating with the new brain that he's got.
But this concept of the word that this doctor used was that there was a dormant part of his brain.
Yeah,
that we potentially have. It just makes me wonder why is that there? And what do you mean by dormant? Is this a part of the brain that was used at some point in the history of our ancestors? Way back, like a part. You know how your brain has different layers that you have in common with other life forms, and it's like you access different parts depending on certain emotions or certain things you're doing. What is this part of his brain that he now has access to that we probably have in our brain, but we don't have access to it? What does that mean?
Well, Rhett, I'll tell you exactly what it means. No, I mean, of course I don't know. I mean, that's the fascinating thing is that even the people who know are still guessing and making analogies, and it's like space exploration.
Well, did you see that movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson?
No.
So, not a great movie. I'll just say right up front, not a great movie.
I saw the one where she was just the voice.
Her, which was a great movie. But in Lucy, which also had Morgan Freeman in it, she is the subject of some, I can't remember exactly how it happens, where there's like something she takes or something, the way she's operated on, I can't remember, but she basically gains access to the entire usage of her brain. And it's based on the whole 10% of the brain, we don't use but 10% of our brain, or at a time, or whatever that old thing was. The idea of being able to access every part of your brain, she becomes just this amazing being who can do all this stuff that seems supernatural and beyond just being really smart, and she's doing all kinds of weird stuff. But that idea, this kind of gives credence to that.
Well, it's a question of is it a hidden secret that's been placed within the brain to be unlocked, or is it the byproduct of biological processes that just happens to be advantageous, or we're on the precipice of unlocking it if we just hit our noggins right?
Well, is there some analogy in like machines or computers that we use in like, okay, you've got an oven or a microwave or a blender, and you drop the blender and all of a sudden there's like a new setting on the blender, that just doesn't happen. You know, you drop a blender and like all of a sudden you can't chop anymore. It isn't like you can like dice things that you couldn't do before. Well, it's just not how things.
It's not a living being.
It isn't.
I will point that out.
Well, and it doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a brain that has a lot of plasticity and the ability to just, you know, brains are, we don't understand them. They're malleable. There's just so much potential in them. We're not blenders, Link. That's the conclusion. We're not blenders. But maybe if we put our brains into a blender, maybe that's what we need to do.
Well, you first.
Okay, on with the amazing things that have happened to people. Orlando Serrell, in 1979, he's 10 years old. He's playing a baseball game with his friends. He runs to first base. The baseball is thrown in his direction, strikes him on the left side of the head.
I knew that was going to happen.
He falls to the ground, stays there for a while unconscious, then he gets up and starts playing baseball again.
He walked it off.
Okay. But since that injury, Orlando can tell you the day of the week and the weather on every date after this accident. Okay? You understand what I'm saying?
So he's a weatherman?
So if you say, Orlando, June 19th, 1998, almost immediately, he doesn't like even look like he's thinking. He just looks like you asked me a question and now I'm giving you an answer. He'll say, Friday, sunny. It was a Friday. I don't know what the weather was.
Can I point out that how would anyone check this, the accuracy of this?
Well, it has been checked. I actually saw this guy in a Discovery Channel.
Did you go up and talk to him?
No, he was not at a booth. I saw him on a Discovery Channel documentary. He's also been on Dateline NBC, where they visited him and they demonstrated this. He can also remember some details about the things that he did that day, like, I ordered a pizza with pepperoni and sausage on that day. But he says that he's not remembering it. When you give him a date, it's like he's reading it. He says he can see the details right in front of him, just like he's accessing information from a screen.
Wow. Now he's
not thinking.
This is fascinating, but it's also sad because so what? You know, it's like I'm trying to help the guy out. I'm like, well, how can this enrich his life?
It gets you on television. It gets you to be a subject matter on your Biscuits.
I know.
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, I'm not complaining about that.
He's like a very specific, he's just a database. I mean, he's a weather database.
But you know, sometimes I think about,
they're called weather databases.
But I don't. When you have Orlando as a friend, you never go to weather.com. But he can't tell you he can't tell you tomorrow's weather, so I guess you still do.
I know. Since when have you gone to anywhere to ask for when the weather was?
What was the weather?
In the past.
I don't know. Farmer's Almanac, man.
He's an anti-weatherman. He's a negative weatherman.
I think it's like the Farmer's Almanac. He can predict the next year pretty accurately, but I could always just go to weather.com.
Based on historical data.
So Daylight NBC invites Orlando to Columbia University in New York to perform a functional MRI test on his brain. So
they want to see what lights up.
During the procedure, they videotaped Orlando undergoing the MRI and then used it to compare his brain functions to that of normal people. So they ask him questions about dates in the past. You know, same thing, like June 19th, 1998.
And the control group, when you ask them about the weather of a day in the past, their response is, so what? I don't know. Why? You know, who cares?
And he is told to only think about the answers but not say them out loud. Now here's what they find. It's really fascinating. In addition to using the part of the brain that normal people would use for computation, Orlando was also using the limbic area of the brain, which is associated with emotion.
Okay.
But Dr. Hirsch, who was the doctor who was doing this, concluded based on the scans that Orlando is not using the memory part of his brain when calculating the weekdays.
He's using emotions?
Basically, I think the answer is, we don't know what he's doing, but he's using his brain in a way that normal people don't. He's not doing something better, because me and you, if you ask us a date, we'd have to like get out, it would take me an hour to do a bunch of math and to like write it all out, to like just go back to like, 3 months ago to figure out what day of the week something was. Mm-hmm. He's not doing that. He's doing it differently.
It's an alternate process entirely.
He's not moving through computations quickly, faster. He's accessing the information immediately using a combination of the computation part of his brain and the emotional part of his brain. They basically don't really understand what's going on, but they're just able to observe that it's different.
Here's what I want to know: how they discovered this. It's probably not just he can tell you the day of the week and what the weather was. It's probably more generic than that, or more general. There's other things he can remember. Like you said, he can remember. It's not just, there's some special unlocked valve in like the weather day data bank of his brain. Yeah, it's probably more broad than that, and he can remember other things, but that's just how it's being packaged for Dateline and for us.
Well, it's
that's like the first thing I think.
Well, it's like he's constantly playing a recorder that he can immediately access the information, but the main thing it records is the day in the weather.
Yeah, it's like his brain is doing something totally different. It's like his brain became a different tool than what a typical brain would be. So,
but the fascinating thing is obviously, it's an amazing thing, but I too agree with you that it's a relatively useless thing. It's amazing that it happened. But let's just say the principle is, getting hit in the side of the head with a baseball in the perfect way when you're 10 years old can unlock something fascinating. If you could unlock some powerful memory technique, what would it be? Like, what if it was every song I've ever listened to, I know all the lyrics. Now that would be awesome. I mean, talk about karaoke. All of a sudden that's pretty useful.
There's sports people who know all that kind of data. I don't know what I would know. I'm trying to come up with something ultra useful, not something just ultra cool.
I think I would want the ability to read a book and be able to access all the facts from the book.
You're a lot better at retaining information than I am, so I feel like if only one of us can get this, it's got to be me. Like I'm really hurting for this. Like I need this one. So that's a good one. I'm taking that one.
But another useful memory skill, how when something happens to you and then, and this happens to everybody, and then you want to sit down and tell the story and you can't quite get everything right, being able to remember exactly how something happened to you, like almost for the sake of like telling a funny story at a party.
Or the witness stand. If you want to use it for justice.
That would also be. That would be helpful. Just being able to remember detailed events with great accuracy. I'd get hit in the head with a golf ball for that.
It's difficult when you can't apply it to other people's situations. Like, I'd much rather be, if it only applies to things you've experienced, you can't help but so many people. But if you know a lot of things, you could help out other people. Let me tell you about this guy that I'm really interested in, because I would much rather have what this guy has.
Okay.
Alonzo Clemens from Boulder, Colorado, was always good with his hands. At the age of 2, he could sculpt and mold Play-Doh for hours at a time. But when he was 3 years old, he fell down and sustained a serious head injury, okay? Changed his life forever. For years, he was unable to speak, tie his shoes, even dress himself. Doctors said he had an IQ of 40.
Whoa.
To this day, Alonzo, he's made tremendous strides in terms of his quality of life, but he still can't read because that part of his brain, it just won't allow him to, the damage that he suffered. However, if you put a piece of clay in his hands, you will be amazed what this guy can do with it. There is a genius part of his brain that's been unlocked to sculpt things. He can look at any animal, a horse, a dolphin, a bull, a giraffe, name it, just a few moments, and then Using only his hands and clay, he can create an insanely detailed 3-dimensional replica out of clay or wax. Like, perfect. This is not like a work of art, like, oh, that looks cool.
An approximation of a horse.
This is a perfect, proportional rendering, anatomically correct, externally.
Wow, anatomically correct.
He doesn't get the organs inside right. It's just like, from the look, it's like perfectly super realistic sculpture of anything. The images in his mind are the only thing he uses for reference. Like, he'll look at a horse once. If you like, I saw footage of him like outside of a horse stable, and he's like sculpting a horse, but he's not looking at the horse. He looked at the horse for a second.
He got it. I got it. Horse. Done. It's like a 3D printer. This guy is a 3D printer.
Yes, he is a human 3D printer. That's exactly right.
You don't need one. You need this guy.
The images in his mind are
only clay, though.
In his mind are so accurate, he can sculpt in the dark without even looking at what his hands are doing. For years,
it's just all by feel?
That's what they say, man. For years, his work was only based on photographs. So his sculptures didn't have as much dimension because he only saw the pictures. But then he started going to zoos and horse stables, and like people would take him to animals, and then it was like spitting out like a 3D image. You're exactly right.
This guy would be like the ultimate zoo companion. You know, going to I'll be honest with you. I'm not big on the zoo. I mean, it's always a disappointment. The animals are always hiding.
You need a sculptor zoo companion.
I need Alonzo. I'd be like, listen, man, I know that the lions are going to be back there sleeping behind the rock. But so when we get there, can you just like sculpt one? It's not even that he is able to do it. He's compelled to do it. Like, he can't help
but do it. It's like so strong of an urge. And some of the like neurological explanations I've read have said things. They've described it as this: we all have this ability, but that for most people, it's overwritten by complex speech abilities that have been erased for Alonzo, and it kind of exposed something. So it. I don't know why they say this, but they describe it as something that's been exposed or opened up, not something that's been created by trauma.
Again, you're saying that we could do this if we could only access that part of the brain.
Yeah. Savants like Alonzo can store information in their memories just like regular people do, but unlike most of us, they can retrieve incredible amounts of information from a very small range, like spatial data. He can retrieve it, just like the piano guy can retrieve details, or the weather guy can retrieve those specific details.
Does he sell this stuff? Does he have a website?
Yeah, he has a website. Alonzo Clemens, CLEMONS.com. Like, he's selling like a hippo mama and a hippo baby for $1,200.
Oh, wow.
This is all like bronze stuff.
It's not cheap.
But it's super inspiring. I got, the videos online, if you just search his name, they're very inspirational. So yeah, I mean, he demonstrates his sculpting at schools to help inspire children. And he's also had a hobby as a power lifter and was in the Special Olympics for doing powerlifting. Dude's amazing.
Dang.
Here's the thing in general. I mean, the brain is so fascinating. This kind of has given us a window into, if you want to call it the untapped potential, okay. The mystery that is our brain is so fascinating, so amazing, so enthralling. We look at technology and we're like, oh, I got to have that next thing. That's amazing that now we've created that thing. But this has given me an appreciation for this device that is nestled under everybody's skull. Like, we all have this device that's so mysterious and so amazing and untapped and unfathomable to a lot of degree, inexplicable, that we're just carrying it around on the top of this.
So what are you going to do?
Heap of jaunting human walker thing.
Well, inside the walker thing, in order to get to the...
But it's right up here. We all have it.
And all we got to do is push real hard while we're using the bathroom, get struck by lightning, don't wear a helmet while playing baseball, don't wear your seatbelt while driving a car. What other things? What other things can we learn?
Or just fall over in an aggressive manner.
Just fall. If it were only that easy.
Right.
Well,
I mean, I really think about, growing up, the huge televisions we had in the 80s, and if it didn't work, what would you do?
Hit it.
You'd go up to the side of it and you'd hit it.
Yeah, and it worked.
Like even in Mad Men, in the last season, I don't know if you remember that, but there's that moment where, I can't remember which character it was, goes up and hits the side of the television. And that's one of the things I love about Mad Men is that it triggers these memories.
You can't do that to a television anymore because it's too thin. And you don't want to hit the screen. You need a box. They need to bring the box back so you can just really hit it.
That's because it wasn't, I'm not going to even say why because I don't know, but it had something to do with the tube. But, I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to try really hard to unlock this potential, but it's just knowing that I have this thing up there it's like carrying around like the depths of the ocean or the depths of space in between my ears.
Plumb the depths between your ears. That's the motto. Plumb the depths.
What?
I'm using your plumbing analogy.
Of us. That's our motto?
I'm bringing it full circle. Plumb the depths between your ears. I don't know if that means, put more stuff in there or I definitely don't think it means don't wear a helmet, but I don't know, or just sit around and wait for the nanotechnology pill that'll make all this easy.
I hope you've been fascinated. I hope you've been inspired to appreciate and begin to plumb the depths between your ears today on this Ear Biscuit.
Please do that.
Let us know what you think. Tweet at us. Of course,
use your brain.
At Rhett and Link, #EarBiscuits.
To access the emotional and computational and memory parts of your brain. And access that part of the brain, turn it into language. It could be Mandarin. It could be English. You can make a sculpture of what you think that we look like right now while we're doing this.
Take an Instagram photo.
Whatever. Do it. Plumb the depths between your ears.
We'll speak at you next week.